Hi, everyone. I'm Angela Hooker. I have been working in accessibility in government and private sector for a long time. I feel like I'm a web grandma. So, or perhaps a web dinosaur, I'm not sure which. You be the judge. And let me share my screen with you all. Just a moment. And here we go. All righty. So I have something shocking to share with you. 42% of people will leave your website or they will leave your project, your product, whatever you've produced to be accessible if it functions poorly. And that includes if it's inaccessible. That is a big ouch. I don't mean to alarm you, but really, let's face it, who can afford to lose that many users? Now, while you absorb that for a moment, if you enjoy posting on social media, go ahead and use hashtag Beyond A11Y checklist, and of course the WebAIM-Conf hashtag. And my X name is Access for All, and LinkedIn/Angela Hooker. Now, because this is just a short session, I have included a wealth of resources for each topic that I'm going to discuss today. So you'll be able to dig in deeper and get some materials that will help you address the issues I will discuss. So let's dig into a few more stats for just a moment. 50.53% of web developers and designers say that they're only partly familiar with web accessibility. And consider another thing. The average web accessibility checklist has about 10 to 15 main points. And these are some of the more general checklists I've come across. And I've yet to see one that actually covers planning and process. So what can come from having a short accessibility checklist? Well, according to WebAIM's Million Project, which tested 1 million homepages against the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, 96.3% of homepages are inaccessible to disabled people. And that really upsets me as a disabled person because I rely on technology heavily and I expect to be able to use the web just like anyone else. So if we're just looking at the homepage of a site, can you imagine how many errors must be throughout the typical website? Now, of those million pages, there were 49,991,225 accessibility errors. That is just shocking to me. Now, is it any wonder that people are unable to use the web and leave those web pages and websites so quickly if they run into problems. So something's wrong here. Let's dig in a bit deeper. Is an accessibility checklist the way to accessibility? Well, I've noticed that when I go to help an organization, their team's first go-to for accessibility is reviewing a checklist of things that they must do to make sure their projects are accessible. Now, I'm not downing checklists because they might help you remember some of the issues that you should review. But if you're just relying on a checklist, this can lead to those inaccessible projects if the average one only has a certain number of checkpoints. And you'll only really read about the bare minimum that you must do to even get a bit of access, but it doesn't cover having a good user experience and one where your users are able to actually complete their tasks. Checklists generally don't cover all of the work that every person on your project team and their specific roles and the work that they should do to ensure that whatever they're producing is accessible. And when I say that, I'm talking about your project manager, your designers, developers, content writers, QA people, everyone involved in producing a project. And usually I've seen that checklist authors create these lists from web accessibility requirements, but it's usually a high level list, and they don't share how to apply those requirements appropriately, not only for your content, but for your audience. And ultimately, a checklist won't tell you whether your project is accessible to disabled people, since it won't likely address all of the needs of your audience. So today I'm going to focus on the process and planning that checklists don't cover. So we're wanting you to go a bit deeper, because if we're finding so many errors, then it sounds like the planning has been neglected. And I want to talk to you about your approach for accessibility and how you're currently thinking about it. I've noticed that when people first hear about accessibility, they're taken off guard and they are forced to act quickly to address problems that may have been brewing for a while. And it's usually an issue of trying to stop the water flowing from the dam so you don't get flooded there, and they end up prioritizing other things for their project, time, budget, impact, and they do that for everything else except accessibility. So I'd like to have you consider basing your accessibility process and team tasks on everyone's role. And I'm talking about role-based accessibility. Now, I wanted to give a shout out to the developers everywhere, because teams typically put the responsibility for accessibility solely on their shoulders. But every team member must know that they have a responsibility to produce work that is accessible. General accessibility checklists don't address the work for each discipline on a team. But when it comes to role-based accessibility, that's going to allow each person to know from the start of their project what they need to do. And instead of backtracking later on, they'll be able to address accessibility adequately from the beginning. And at that point, it will be up to the project lead to oversee each team member's deadlines and tasks to make sure they're producing accessible work. So let's talk a little bit about planning. And this is how you're going to prevent those 50.8 errors on each page. And it's critical for the project lead to plan for accessibility before a project even begins. And I've seen many cases where people will hear about a project that they have to work on. They get excited. Oh, I want to do this, or I want to use this, or I want this to look like this. And they start coding or designing, or they're using a library where everything is put together for them, but they haven't considered the accessibility requirements for the project. They haven't thought about their users' needs and the user journey and path through that project. And they, in general, haven't even talked with other team members to see if what they want to achieve is even possible or realistic within the project timeline or within the budget. And I've seen where people will get so far ahead in their work that there's no time to go back and reconsider how to make their work accessible, because they've already built the foundation and there's no time to tear it up and change everything. And then they get locked into the work they've already produced because of project timelines. So discussions about these types of issues are critical at the beginning, and they will help you from building in errors and will help you from getting frustrated with your team members and help your users not get frustrated with you. So what are the types of things you should consider when you're planning for accessibility? So you want to factor it in your budget. Are you going to be working with outside help? Are you going to be working with people just on your team? Do you have to have funds for anything in particular that you need for the project? You need to adequately build in time to make this work accessible. And usually this is where projects get off track, because there's the project lead does not think about the timeline and how much work it actually takes to do something sophisticated or very intricate functionality and to make that accessible. And it's not that you can't do it, you just need to plan for it. The other thing is you want to factor in the people who are going to be working with you on that project. And if they're going to be working on your project full-time, part-time, what is their workload like? How much time they're able to contribute to the project? Are they knowledgeable about accessibility? Do you need to train your team? So it's that type of thing that you want to consider when it comes to the people. And you also want to look at your resources and technologies that you're planning to use, because you want to make sure that they will actually allow you to create accessible work. And you need to factor in time for testing as you go along, not when you get to the end. So these are the types of things that you want to consider in the planning stage. Now here's one. You don't want to forget about the applicable accessibility standards. So even if you are using a checklist that's based on a particular standard, you may not be addressing all that you can do for the best experience for your users and for one that offers real accessibility. So you need to think about what requirements you will use to build your project and what must you meet. Is there a certain level of conformance that you need to consider? Now, WCAG 2.2 is due for approval any minute now, I think, any day now. So are you using that or something older? Have you been looking forward to upcoming standards and what that could mean for your projects if it does go live soon? And will you need to meet any additional standards because of that? You don't want to build something that's going to be outdated and unusable by people with disabilities because you haven't considered everything applicable there, whether it's on the way or current. Does your country have any specific accessibility standards that you must meet? Several countries have their own standards, and you should check to make sure that wherever you are, that you are not missing anything that you must do. Does your organization even have certain standards that you must meet? Do they do business in other countries where you have to meet accessibility standards in those countries? And you don't want to get caught up by not addressing something that you should have addressed when you're looking at the standards because you were thinking only about your own company, your own country. Does the particular product that you're producing need to meet any other standards relevant relative to the content or to the product? For example, are you building a web-based tool or software? And do you need to look at the authoring tool accessibility standards? So you want to make sure that you're covering all the bases and making sure that it's meeting everything that you need to meet, not just what you see on a checklist. Now, collaboration is key because the interesting thing is, I would say that collaboration has become an overused buzzword that we hear more, especially since the pandemic. But on the other hand, I've noticed that people tend to work singularly without talking with their other project team members. And they don't realize the impact that each person's work has on the other members. I have found it helpful to bring everyone involved in a project all together for regular collaborative work sessions. And I really don't mean a meeting. I mean that you're actually working together on your project. And you can do this in person or virtually. I've found that it's often easier to have those tough questions or have tough conversations and address questions when you're talking with people and working with them together regularly. So consider the way that you're collaborating. Now, what about your audience? Who are they? What do you know about them? Are you reaching everyone that you intend to reach with your product? Does your project reach even more people than you realize? And what do those people think about your project? Is it easy for them to use? User research is critical here. If you have not included your current and prospective audience members, your users, in your project process, then you really don't know if you're meeting their needs. This will help you. User research will help you find problems that you might not realize exist with your project. You must test with your users. And it doesn't matter if you followed every standard and every rule and every best practice for accessibility. The fact is that you are not your users. The way they use things may be different from what you intended, and to see them in action is enlightening. Now, if a person has a mix of disabilities, then that may bring another level of difficulty that you might need to solve for. No tool can think like your users, so it can't anticipate every scenario and potential problem, no matter what you're using to test and to check your work. One person's experience is just not going to be equal to another person's. And I've often found that people have learned through user research that because they've been using equipment and hardware that is current and fast, and it's different from what their audience uses, they're not necessarily going to have the latest hardware and software. So what they come up with, their experience could be radically different from yours. You want to test often with your users because technology is, of course, changing at an amazing rate now. And you must make sure that your testing scenarios are inclusive of different disabilities. Now, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself by talking about scenarios and such, but let me recommend this book to you. It is called Rocket Surgery Made Easy by Steve Krug. It is tremendous. If you are worried about budget and being able to support usability testing and finding those issues, there are many lo-fi ways that you can do testing just to get an idea of any potential problems. You don't have to worry about spending a lot of money on this type of research. Now, you can spend a lot of money on this type of research, but to get started, this is a great way. The suggestions that he has in this book, they will teach you how to have conversations with your users quickly and inexpensively. So I heartily recommend this book and the methods that he uses to help you get started. Uh-oh. I am having a bit of problems here with my presentation. It looks like I'm, oh dear.
So is it stuck, or
I think I'm stuck.
will it let you escape out of it and get back in, or?
No, no. I tell you what, I'm just going to continue on and I will stop. Let me see if I can stop sharing. That will.
Yeah, that's what I'd recommend. Stop sharing for a second and then see if you can escape out of the presentation and back in, or maybe close it and open it.
Jill, I just stopped your share for you, so that's done.
Okay.
And while we're doing waiting on
We're-
this, oh, are you good now? It's looking.
No. I'm just stuck now. The worst possible times for tech failure.
Right.
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to stop sharing and continue on.
Perfect.
Let me just move to my document with my notes. I apologize. Oh boy. All righty. Great timing.
Nope, no worries. And you'll be able to just keep on going with it and go off your notes, and we'll just enjoy listening.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, thank you all for your patience. Let's get back into it. So we were talking about Rocket Surgery Made Easy. Now, there's one other place I want to talk about collaboration, and that's with designers and developers. I have noticed that some designers hand off their work to developers without discussion. It's like you throw it over the fence, do with it what you will, and no guidance and no communication. So this is where that collaboration is critical again. It leaves your developers to implement things on their own as they believe they understand it, and they may not do it in the way that you intend. So I'm encouraging designers to annotate their designs so that they can implement them correctly, and usually much easier. I will have a few resources for you where you can find out more about how to do it, some great examples, and that will help you keep those conversations going and even support your work sessions that you're doing collaboratively. The next thing you want to think about is your documentation. You want to make sure that you are recording everything or documenting everything that your team does to make its work accessible for every project or program. And you want to do this for every update, every new project, everything. This is particularly important in case someone tries to bring any legal action or make any threats against your organization. This will allow you to show that you've made a good faith effort to be accessible, and you'll have the documentation to back it up. It is great protection for you as well, for every person on a team to show what they've done for accessibility. So you want to gather all your sticky notes, every note that you've recorded in your note tools, everything, bring it together and keep it, log that, log all of your testing, everything that you're doing. And you want to prepare a general statement about your project's accessibility status. Now, if you've uncovered problems, document them and make sure that you're making a roadmap to address those issues. Don't just let them linger and not fix this. I have noticed also that often teams won't store this information. They won't keep what they've done in the past, and they don't share that as institutional knowledge. Having that information about what you've done on previous projects will help people who come in later on and pick up quickly and get up to speed on the quality of your work, because I'm sure you're doing everything that you can to do the best possible work, and you want people to see that and know that this is the quality that we're working at. This will also help your team stop from making the same mistakes over and over, especially if your project is such where people come and go. You want to be able to show them, this is where we've come from. We don't want to do this again. So that documentation will help you with that. This will also help you endear yourself to your manager. Now, you're not done here. You want to bring on the optimization. I've noticed that people, once they launch a project, they consider it's done, never to be looked at again. this is where I encourage you to continue that usability research and look at your product and how you can improve it. If you get feedback from your users before or after launch, make sure that you are updating your work and making it the best possible experience. You don't want to let issues like that linger. And while we're talking about that, let's talk about bugs. Because I've seen where people will think of accessibility problems as fixes that are nice to have, or they're a feature, but they're not a real thing that they need to be concerned about in their mind. But you want to make sure that the access that you're giving your users, every user, is the best possible thing. So when you manage your bugs and you're tracking them, how are you going to set severity and priority for an accessibility issue? You have to know where to set it at the right level, and some issues are hard to fix. If you don't have the resources for your team to fix those problems, then they will linger and never get solved. Don't set your team up for failure. Make sure that you are setting things at the right severity and priority, and you're giving your users that good experience. You also want to think about tracking how long it takes to fix bugs, because this can be a powerful piece of data that will support you in advocating for a better process rather than fixing bugs after the fact. And I've noticed that people get pressured to go live when there are critical bugs still in the system. And this is where you want to show people that if we had fixed it earlier, then we wouldn't have spent much time or money to fix it later. So let's talk a bit about getting buy-in and support for accessibility, because I know that sometimes people know that they have to address the issues of accessibility and a good user experience, but leadership may not agree. Unfortunately, it usually comes down to money. It's a motivator. You want to tell people about the return on investment, that they'd miss out on the $8 million in income that people with disabilities have, how it helps your organization to become competitive. It makes you look good as a leader. You can tell your leadership that, makes them look good, and it makes the organization look good. It's the law in many countries, and it's the right thing to do. You want to inspire them to work with a purpose and intentionality. It may be that it will require a big culture change, and it can take a while to do that, but it can happen. It is possible. I have had success in demoing inaccessible content to stakeholders to let them see that the problems that people have. I've found that even allowing leadership to sit in and observe those usability tests has been a great game changer. as far as getting their support. They will be amazed, and often they'll say, I had no idea that this was so difficult to use for people with disabilities, and we don't want to hurt anyone in our audience, because it leaves your users with a feeling of distrust, and it can hurt the company's reputation. So it hurts the bottom line. You'll also want to motivate your team and really coach them and let them know that this is going to increase their marketability and their ability to collaborate better with team members. It will also help them to work faster than doing it later on when they should have built in accessibility from the start, and it will help them improve their skills. You also want to share that with anyone you partner with and let them know that that collaboration is going to go smoother, just so much easier. Now, one thing I want to talk about, what happens when accessibility conflicts occur? And what do I mean by that? Well, sometimes there are things that you would do for one group of users that may impact another group of users negatively. And I've seen where things like contrast, font size, content that you've written, short content, microcopy, anything like that, it can have a different impact on people with disabilities depending upon their needs. So you want to be able to help those users who have a poor experience if your solution causes conflicts. Don't ignore the problem. If you know that your research has uncovered problem X for your users, then let them know that somewhere on your project, on your website, or wherever, that this may be an issue. Please contact us for more help. Because you may not be able to fix it satisfactorily for everyone. Sometimes it happens, and it doesn't mean that your project doesn't conform to the standards. It's just not the best user experience for everyone. And next time you'll want to think about how you can plan solutions that won't cause conflicts among your users, and at least how you can be better prepared for them. Now, what about your company's internal culture? You don't want to be perceived as accessibility hypocrites. Are you handling your internal systems accessibly for your employees? Do you say that you're inclusive? Do you say that your public work is accessible, but your internal practices don't support that? This is the worst type of hypocrisy. You can do better for your employees and make sure that they're able to work with you accessibly, that they're able to work and get their work done because your internal systems are accessible. How would your customers feel about your organization if they learn that you don't support inclusion internally, that your work systems aren't accessible for your employees. They would think, oh, they must not really care. And your employees would feel like, oh, well, they're doing things accessibly to get money, but they don't care about us. This can get leaked out to the public and blemish your image. So you want to make sure that whatever you're doing internally, you're supporting inclusion. And that comes when you're recruiting people, when it comes to their everyday work, whatever it is, make sure that you're supporting inclusion internally. All right. One thing I didn't talk about, sometimes people will try to take a shortcut when it comes to accessibility, and they'll use an overlay. And I just want to say, don't do it. Don't think it's going to get you out of hot water. Do your work accessibly and don't take shortcuts, because you're going to end up hurting your users and your reputation. Don't do it. Now, for some hard truths. Take heart. There is so much hope when you take a thoughtful approach to accessibility. And as I said earlier, don't think of your project as once published, it's done. It needs constant refinement because technology changes and your users' needs and their expectations change. And even your organization changes. Another hard truth is that someone may have a bad experience with your product as you continue to refine it and refine your process for producing accessible work. I want you to be encouraged to be okay with learning as you go. Sometimes your team is going to make mistakes, but they'll grow from them and you'll be able to do better later. Remember that research and continued testing is key. Just because something conforms to the standards does not mean that it equals a usable experience and a good experience for your customers. You also want to make sure that you are empowering your people to say, yes, we will go live with this, or no, we won't go live with this if their research and testing turns up a big problem that perhaps you hadn't seen before. Protect your team. Protect if someone has to blow the whistle, because they're protecting you and your organization. And again, there is hope. You will get a process down that makes sense for everyone and will uncover those deeper problems that perhaps you haven't considered before. What's next? Practice. Keep practicing what you do. Practice what you've learned during this conference and what you'll learn tomorrow. Look at other works out there that are completely unrelated to your daily work, because it's going to give you a different perspective on how things are usable for people. When it comes to websites on a specific topic, I've noticed that they're generally all created and designed the same way. So you need to get out of that box and look at something that's unrelated to what you do. Pick it apart and study it to see if you can find accessibility issues. That research is important as well. And as I say, always be observing, always be looking and making sure that you're staying up to date with what your users need. All right. How about some questions?
Excellent. Let's open it up for some questions. Well, put your questions in the chat. We have some already. We'll see how many of these we can get to. But the first one for you, Angela, is do you have suggestions for individual contributors advocating for accessibility, especially at the beginning of projects? There's a tendency to just get the feature out the door pressure from managers. So what recommendations do you have?
I've run into that myself. And as I've shown them, as I've shown colleagues along the line, if we take something that we already have live and show them, demonstrate the problems that we have currently with those, whether it's a website or a web-based tool or whatever it is, if you can demonstrate those problems, it makes a powerful argument to change the way that you're doing things and managing things so that you can make sure that you adequately address accessibility from the start. I find that people think that they can put a Band-Aid on a problem later on. Well, we can just fix it later, and those bugs will just linger and nothing gets done ever. And then you'll find that by the time people even consider fixing something, they're ready for a redesign. So nothing ever gets done. So show people where the problems are that on whatever you have currently, show them. And
That's a great, nope, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I thought you were done. Keep going. Sorry about that.
That's all right. That's okay. It takes observing a user using something that you have currently.
Yeah, it's a great recommendation. Thanks, Angela. The next question is, if we follow design standards, do we need to plan for accessibility separately? What would your recommendations or thoughts be on that?
I'm sorry, if we follow design standards?
Yes. Do we need to plan for accessibility separately?
I wouldn't say separately. I would say when you look at those design standards, look at accessibility standards for whatever you're trying to produce. And before you even start your work, start looking at those standards and best practices, not just the bare minimum. You want to create a really good experience for your users. So start it out at the beginning. When I was talking about role-based accessibility, that means that every person on a team has a responsibility to produce accessible work. So look at what you're doing. Look at examples of what you're doing out there online. WebAIM is a great resource for that. Look at what other organizations are doing. And in my resources and that I'll have in my slides, I'll have some examples of places where you can go to learn about creating things accessibly for every team member.
Excellent. Thank you for that information. And then you mentioned the slides there, sharing it. Is that something, a few people asked that in the chat, if that would be available?
Absolutely. I think what I'm going to do is to post them on my noticed page. Let me give you all the URL. And I'm putting that in chat. And
Perfect.
the
Hey.
URL, pardon?
All right, I apologize again. I just jumped in when you did, so go ahead.
It's all right. It's all right. It's the URL is noti.st/access for all. You'll be able to find my slides there.
Perfect. And I think we have time for a couple more quick questions. I probably jumped to the slide thing too early, but you just mentioned it, so I brought it up. But somebody asked, Muriel, if there are funding resources to make sure that users who provide user testing are compensated for their time, expertise, and lived experiences. Are you aware of any type of user funding like that?
As far as outside funding, outside of your company? Is that
I
what?
think that's what they're asking, yeah.
Okay.
So
I've never heard of that, but I tell you what, I've been able to get some amazing things for participants by partnering with other organizations. So sometimes it's helpful to talk with organizations in your area and see, is there something that they would like to contribute for your participants? But I believe that if you are talking to people to get good research and information for your project, I believe it's fair to compensate them. So I would say consider that in your budgeting.
excellent. I think we have time for one, maybe two more. So from another participant, hello, Angela. Do you have any advice for improving accessibility in existing areas where it wasn't necessarily considered from the beginning? For example, in legacy projects?
Yes, 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 yes. Um, the problem with legacy projects is that people often don't want to invest the time and the money for something that's going to go away eventually. But the fact is, if you have information about the numbers of people that use that project or product, start out with those stats, get stats on who's using what, who's doing what with it, and how it impacts your organization. And if you need to get that buy-in, that's where you can get it with those numbers and seeing what impact it has on your organization if that thing were to go away, or if you knew that a large number of users were unable to use it. So if you take those stats that I gave earlier, that 40-something% people will leave your site, if it's inaccessible or if there are problems with functionality, and those 40-something% people matter to you and will have a great impact on your organization, then that is the key.